It's festival season and we love to bring the festival feel into our back garden. So today I'm going to share with you a tutorial for these homemade lanterns. We're going to use items found around the home for these. So to make them you will need some tissue paper, some scissors, a brush for your glue, some PVA or alternative glue that you might have at home, some plastic bottles, a hole punch, some wool or string. So to make them, you're going to take one of your plastic bottles and we're just going to take the top off of that using the scissors. Now be very careful doing this, you might want to get an adult to do it for you because cut plastic can be quite sharp. You might want to put some sellotape around the top there just to protect your fingers. So we've got our cut plastic bottle and we're going to today make the bumblebee version. So we need some yellow tissue paper, some black tissue paper, you can use strips or we're just using some pre-cut out squares that we had left over from another project. So we're going to start by taking our glue. Now we're using PVA because that's what we had around the house. You could use any kind of Pritt Stick glue for this, and we have a nice easy pour bottle, so because we've got PVA and it's quite runny we're going to use a brush just to move it around. So we're going to lay our base down first, so to do that I'm going to cover the whole bottle in a layer, very thin layer of glue. We're going to use the brush just to maneuver the glue around as much as possible and to get as much coverage as possible, just very loosely, but making sure that we go all the way up to the top in particular and just brushing that around and across. And obviously we're using a full coverage because we're putting down a whole piece to start our lantern today, but if you were doing a lantern that was just a mixture of squares of colour or with a particular design on it that didn't require a whole piece down, then you might just want to do a little bit of Pritt Stick as you go or a little bit of PVA as you go. So once you've got a good full coverage all the way around, we're going to take our piece of yellow tissue paper, which is our background for our bumblebee piece, and we're just going to line up the bottle along the bottom of our strip of yellow tissue paper and just make sure that we get that properly sealed down, and then we're just going to roll the bottle up the tissue paper, just pressing as we go to make sure we don't get too many air bubbles and air pockets, all the way until we get back to the end. Don't worry too much about overhang at the top because we're going to fold that down, which will add an extra layer of protection against any sharp edges. So any excess you can either cut off with a pair of scissors or we're just going to stick it down here. Just like that. And then we're just going to fold the top over all the way around. So next we're going to create our black stripes. As I said, you can use strips for this. We have some leftover squares here from a previous project, so we're going to use those up. And don't worry too much about neatness and tidiness of this. This is supposed to be a fun thing to do, so it doesn't matter if your edges are a little bit wobbly. So we're just going to put down some PVA just around here, and then take our first square and place it down. If you were doing a strip, then you might want to go all the way around with the glue and just do the strip all in one go. And we're just going to do it in sections because we've got the squares here. Just stick down another one. And then we'll put down just another one here, just to use up that last bit of glue. And you can see there the beginning of our stripe. So now what we're going to do is go all the way around with our black squares to create a whole long black stripe along the bottom there. And again, we're making the glue go as far as possible. This is quite a handy bottle because it's an easy pour bottle. so we can pour it straight from the bottle onto the project without too much spillage, and then use the brush to make it go as far as possible so that we don't end up with great big blobs of glue, because that would make the tissue paper quite wet and quite difficult to maneuver. I just got a little gap there, just going to fill that in. Lovely. And you can see that what we've got there then is the stripe at the bottom, and you can see it's not necessarily the neatest, but we're using up tissue paper, and it establishes the look that we want it to. So now we're going to put his little face on. There's a couple of eyes. Any bits that do pop up of the tissue paper, just use the brush. It should have just a little bit of PVA on it at all times, and you can just brush over the top and it will stick them straight back down again. So put on the mouth. So we've got a nice smiley bumblebee. And then we're just going to put on his little antennae, just coming at the top there. And these were just cut out from other squares of tissue paper that we had left from a previous project. So there we have his face, just a quick brush over just to make sure he's completely sealed down. Just using the leftover glue that was already on the brush. So now what we need to do is to do our other stripes, going up his body just to really solidify that bumblebee look. So the great thing about this project is that you can just have lots of fun with whatever you've got lying around. Tissue paper is just something that we happen to have to hand, and we've just used the colours to look at exactly what we can make that we like, but you could do stained glass window ones, you can put words or writing on, you can just put lots of colours all over it. You can use other types of paper as well. You just need to think about the glow coming through from the light. So tissue paper is quite useful as a light kind of paper to let the light through. Other types of heavier paper can be used, but you'd need to think about where you were leaving gaps to let the light come through on the lantern. So we've done our stripes, and we're just going to take the brush now and what little bit of glue's left on it and just go over some of the edges to make sure they're completely sealed down. Make sure that they are not going to pop up or come off at all. And as you can see, we've not worried too much about the edges and whether or not they match, and cutting every single thing to match because it's just a bit of fun. And here we have our bumblebee lantern. So we're going to take our hole punch and just punch a hole in the side there. It should go through quite easily on these plastic bottles. Punch a hole on the other side directly opposite, and that will allow us to thread our string through, or our wool in this case, so that we can hang the lanterns nice and easily. So other types of lanterns that we've had a go at while we've been playing this morning are stripes and silhouettes, and we've even made ourselves a little create lantern, and we're going to let those dry and then string those up. So when we string them up, we're going to take our wool, and the length will depend on how many lanterns that you've made. Again, this can be string or garden wire, whatever you have to hand. We're going to thread it through our two holes. So we're going to put our create one on first and move that down as far as possible. Then we're going to take our next one, which we're going to put our silhouette one on next. And then we'll thread on the next one. I think we'll do the stripy one now. And then we're going to put our last one on, and we're going to put on our bumblebee. There he is. And just move those along so that they're evenly spread. Just like that. And then the next job is to hang them in the garden. And you can see that when you put your candles inside, it has quite a good effect. Now, just to be safe, we've used battery powered candles. We've used LED ones that look like this. And we've just dropped them in like so. And as you can see, they have quite a good effect in the garden. So those are your garden lanterns for a festival feel in your own home. I hope that you've enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you very much. Bye.